So when Dad, was wondering how to make the property contribute a little bit, he said, well, heck, I got a barn.
I'm 77 years old and I'm still alive. But it's because of the dude, Stout.
Welcome to Stout Conversations, where every week we sit down with creative thinkers in the craft beer industry and beyond. Your hosts, Ken and April, live and work in a 24-foot RV, traveling the country in search of great stories around a great beer. Was your beer born in a barn? Mine was. Nestled next to the Bighorns between the Black Hills and Yellowstone, tourists, climbers, and locals alike gather at Ten Sleep Brewing Company for Wild West tales, great beer brewed in a barn, and historic adventures. We hope you enjoy this classic black and white Wild West episode filmed in Ten Sleep, Wyoming.
I was going to say, we're here in Ten Sleep Brewing Company in Ten Sleep, Wyoming, which is a population of just over 250 people.
Yeah, about 250.
Yeah.
We have a
thriving
few more in the
metropolis.
summer. Yeah.
251.
Yeah.
251 when Dave gets into town, or
252 in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Right. And we're here with Dave and Justin.
Yep.
Yeah. So maybe tell us kind of how your relationship is with the brewery.
Yeah, I'm the general manager, and I think my dad abdicated his crown in October. So
He's giving it to you.
He volunteered me for being president. Yeah. So I was kind of doing the job already, and we're pretty informal around here. So, this was Dad's idea. He got caught in kind of the economic apocalypse in 2008, 2009. He was building airplane hangars and stuff on airports, little T hangars and stuff, and we had relatives in Western Washington where Dave and Dad and the whole gang is originally from, who had done a little brewery in their old dairy barn. And it was back in 2009 and 10. And so when Dad, was wondering how to make the property contribute a little bit, he said, well, heck, I got a barn. And at that point, Wyoming only had, 5 or 6 breweries maybe. So that was, 2010, 2011 or somewhere around in there. And our relatives had started this little thing and immediately had way more demand than they knew what to do with. And so he thought, heck, I could do that, So he started raising money from friends and family, and Dave included, and, kind of quickly topped out that avenue and didn't know if it was going to go further. But we found a fabricator down in Colorado who said they could build us a 7-barrel system for pretty reasonable at that time, and Dad had contacted the guys at Melvin. At that point, they were timing up, and Jeremy was kind of a buddy, and we know him through a local kid who's a North Face snowboarder here in town.
Oh wow!
Grew up here his whole life. His family owns most of what you see on the mountain there.
Oh yeah.
But put us in touch with Jeremy, and so Jeremy was kind of walking us through it a little bit, and took a look at the systems that this guy's built and said, yeah, go for it. So they pulled the trigger in January of 2013. And Dad realized maybe a little bit, not long after that he was in over his head and needed some help. I was in Oregon doing an engineering job at the time in Bend, Oregon, so surrounded by beer, and drank a lot of beer and made some beer and knew a lot of those guys. And my company was sending all of their work to China, so I could kind of see the writing on the wall. And I said, move back to Ten Sleep after 27 years.
Wow.
So loaded up the wife and the 2 kids, one of which was a very small little bugger at that point, and headed back to Ten Sleep. And that's where our origin story kind of starts to get interesting, because I rolled into here in the end of May of 2013, and the fabricator stopped returning our phone calls, stopped returning our emails.
Uh-oh.
And
that's not good.
I thought, what did I just do? And so finally got him on the horn in early June. He said, oh yeah, I'm going out of business. My customers are suing me. My wife's leaving me. My guys have all left. And I'm like, I don't care. Where's my stuff?
Right.
Man, he's a walking country song.
Yeah. And he managed to ship. This went on. We needed to be open in July because the retail season here is like this.
Yeah, it's very
June, July,
narrow.
and August.
Right, because I assume here with 250 people, you probably rely a lot on tourist coming through, or
So
some
we have
kind of
we're on the main
seasonal
scenic
traffic.
route between the Black Hills and Yellowstone, and so we get those folks coming both ways.
We're just off the Bighorns here.
Yeah.
We're right on the edge of the Bighorns, and
We're an international destination for rock climbing, and we have pretty solid hunting season and whatnot. But
Yeah,
you
so-
really wanted to be open
Right.
that summer, and it obviously wasn't going to happen. In August, he managed to ship the mash tun, and we got it, and it was all smashed in on one side. It looked like it had been welded by a kindergartner.
It was horrible.
And then in late August, I was heading down to park on his doorstep, and I got to Colorado because my family's from that area, and called him up. He said, "Well, I just put the kettle on the truck and the platform," and that was on a Monday. And on Tuesday morning, he called me up and said, "Well, the bank locked my doors, so."
oh man.
So I'm just like, what? And got up here, and the shipping company lost the kettle. And it's a.
How do you lose a
that?
7-barrel
At that
kettle?
point, they're like, well, we didn't see an address on it, so we sent it to Jackson because that's where all the brew
Oh,
stuff
because
goes.
that's Melvin, right?
Yeah.
And Jackson, and they're
yeah.
like, we don't need another kettle.
Snake and so when it finally and then they said, oh, and by the way, it's kind of mangled, and when a shipping company tells you something's mangled,
Oh no.
it's mangled. And so that guy had been in such a hurry that he had just tack welded the firebox on. It's a direct fire kettle, and stuck it on a truck, nothing around it. And so they were moving it around with pallet jacks and caved the whole bottom of the firebox in. So we're sitting in here, and Dave was building away with Dad on the whole thing this whole summer, and we're sitting here in September with 2,000 pounds of steel smashed up, laying out in the dirt, and we're just like, what did we do?
When that tank came, Louis had to actually take the
Oh,
whole
yeah.
thing apart.
So-
There's his brother.
All
He's a
these
welder.
guys are super handy, which is the only reason we're even alive. Because Dad and Dave built the whole thing along with my brother, and then my brother was a structural welder. Didn't have a ton of stainless experience, but was able to piece the kettle firebox back together. And
On farm.
And I'm a
We
I'm a
got a rooster that
mechanical
doesn't know what
engineer.
time it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So I started frantically buying components and stuff, and I'd never set up a brewery before, and so
Well, yeah, because you said you brewed homebrewed, right?
Yeah,
so,
homebrewed,
but
and
stepping
and
up to
then-
a 7-barrel system's a big step.
when I first
Even for
moved
homebrew.
back to Wyoming, I basically apprenticed with Jeremy for like 2 weeks in the back of Time Me
Oh,
Up.
really?
And I lived in his converted Border Patrol van out in the street. It was a very Melvin experience.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we're looking at late September, and I bought 3 little Chinese fermenters and a Chinese bright tank, and wow, everything they said about Chinese steel at that point was true. And we got going, and the first part of October, Jeremy and one of his guys came out, and we brewed the porter first, because we figured you could kind of screw up a porter. It wouldn't be very obvious.
It's a little forgiving sometimes.
I don't know what you did then, but it's not screwed up now.
No, and we've been
good.
fanatically lucky, I think. But,
Well, and you
brewed
missed
that.
the summer season. So
Yeah, October.
Kind of had to go dark. So.
And brewed, I think, our pale rider the next day, and then Jeremy and everybody went, see ya, and went home, and we're like, uh-oh.
Now how do
it
we
was
do
me
it?
and Dad, right? And Jeremy had brought that old keg cleaner that we literally retired 2 days ago, and it was a 3-phase, just beat to hell old keg cleaner. We have no 3-phase. So we MacGyvered this crazy crap altogether. November, one of the Chinese fermenters started leaking. Took us down to 2 fermenters. And so, yeah, basically myself brewing and packaging and Dad helping, and we decided Wyoming allows you to self-distribute,
Okay.
That's
which
nice
is
then.
Even today.
good and bad,
Yeah.
because Wyoming is so damn big and there's so few people. So they let you self-distribute, but by God, you better have a warehouse and a semi or something, right?
Refrigerated
So
truck.
I'm ripping around the state in my wife's Passat with half barrels in the back and 6 barrels in the back seat, because it's 20
geez.
below zero, and they're gonna
no.
freeze if they're in my truck. So
Oh, no.
that was our origin story that winter, and we were literally breaking ice in the sanitizer buckets and in the toilets, and we didn't have a steam vent because the guy went out of business. So when we're brewing during the boil, I'd flip the big doors open, and it'd be 1 o'clock afternoon and 10 below zero, and you flip the doors open, and it would like flash freeze.
Oh yeah.
Steam all over everything, and it was just
Yeah.
like a giant ice skating rink.
I didn't get to see any of that.
No.
Thank goodness. I'm out of here.
Yeah,
So,
not your time of
so
year.
it was like
Arizona.
by February, it was like the 1,000-yard stare, and we hooked up with the local distributor out of Worland, Teton Distribution, and that took the load off of me ripping around the state. And self-distribution sounds like a great thing, and it probably is if you're in Denver because you have the population.
It's everywhere. Like it's so easy to get
But
you
to.
don't have
up
to
here-
go that far, but you're
Yeah.
pretty far from anywhere you
Oh,
need
yeah.
to distribute to.
Yeah,
Right.
and the cool thing about Wyoming is it's just like one big town with long Main Street, right? Because if you're in Wyoming, it doesn't matter if you're here or Sheridan or Sundance or wherever, Green River, you're in Wyoming, and so they'll give you a chance. And if they'll keep the door open for you, and if you give them a good product, they'll stick with you like fanatically. And so we're very happy to be making good beer for good people in Wyoming.
Yeah.
So Dave, how'd you get involved in this glamorous job?
That's a pretty good story. I think it was, I don't know, the year 2012 or 13. Lyndon and I, my girlfriend, were on our way to Sturgis with the Harley, and I hadn't seen Cole and Carol for years. And I didn't even know these guys.
Oh,
It's been that many years. And
yeah.
I think we spent 5 days here. We had a little motorhome and visited with Cole and Carol, and he was saying he's going to build a brewery, and I said, where at? And he said, right here in the barn. I said, here in the barn?
Yeah, we're on a farm.
That's
the barn.
It's a dirt floor.
Yeah, we're
in
not
there.
even in the middle of a 250-person
Yeah,
town. We're on the outskirts.
That sounds. I said, you need help? And he said, yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
And I said, because that's the family cabin that I own now. That's where these kids grew up for quite a while.
Yeah, that's what Kara was telling me.
Anyway, I said, is that cabin for sale? And yeah, but it won a lot of money. So, well, when it drops about $100,000, let me know. Well, we came back the next year on the way to Sturgis. Never made it to Sturgis. We spent about 4 weeks parked right where the cooler is, right there. In the motorhome, and we talked about brewery and doing stuff. And I bought the cabin because it came down to $100,000. And we left and came back the next year and moved into the cabin.
And started
And
working.
spent 5 months, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
We're pulling,
Yeah, that the
Cole
barn
and I,
was,
we
was-
built the whole walk-in cooler. Of course, I'm a retired refrigeration guy, so I got my hands on a lot of refrigeration stuff. And a buddy of mine from Washington State came out. We put in the glycol system, 55 feet all underground.
Okay.
Got that all hooked up, and of course, Cole's framing, and I'm running wires and running water pipes and hanging toilets and sinks and did all the tile work in the bathroom.
Everybody did everything.
It was all hands on.
It was
all this concrete.
old cars and dead animal parts in there.
Yeah.
You guys started like Wyoming barn.
It was so it was 5 months of fun. I just enjoyed the hell out of it. It was a lot of work.
That is really impressive, though. I mean, you hear of a lot of breweries,
Yeah.
smaller breweries, getting started doing a lot of the work themselves. But I mean, this is not that small of a brewery. I mean, we're not, as far as business-wise, we're not talking, Avery or Odell's or New Belgium, but the physical size of this brewery is pretty impressive. That you guys did all this yourselves.
Well,
and
we
put it
shoved
together.
the last fermenter that we could fit in there last June, and so we've grown at 25 to 30% a year.
Wow.
And that's a big number. It's fun to say that, but when you start with 3 little fermenters and you add 4, you're like, woohoo! 50%.
Was that
Yeah.
was that the last one that
But-
picked up in Colorado?
Yep. Dave
Yeah.
drove down with a flatbed trailer and drug it home from Rocky Mountain Vessels in Montrose.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Super good dudes.
On that note, what would you say has been one of the biggest challenges?
We have it's funny, we have way more demand than we have capacity, and their immediate reaction is, well, that's a good problem to have. And yes, that's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem, and especially if you still have that problem 3 years later, right? You want to be able to meet that demand, or else people are eventually going to get sick of waiting for you. And so we're trying to build a little facility out in the field and put maybe a 3,000 square foot building up with a little 15 barrel system. We don't want to go big. We don't need to go big, but we need to go a little bigger. Because what is kind of fun though is we have two very different demographics. The summer demographic is climbers, right? And so we are able to make IPAs and pales and have fun. And then the Wyoming demographic is more of the old school, Goldens and Ambers and Quarters and stuff like that. So right now we have a hard time having any fun with new recipes because we're at capacity, and so
you just have to crank out the stuff
you don't
that's
get to
selling.
play as much as you'd like, and your brewers are like, oh great, another Speedgo, but hey, it pays the bills. We love Speedgo.
Well, that's fun. That's funny to talk about too. Like you said, you don't want your distributors to oversell.
Yeah,
which sounds counterintuitive to business, right? But like you
Yeah.
said, if you don't deliver,
yeah,
that can be worse than selling product you can't come up with.
Oh yeah. And
the
it's such a seasonal swing that it can be hard because they tend to oversell in the winter because they have capacity, and somebody says, well, I want Speedgoat on here, and they're like, yeah, sure. And then summer comes along and a lot of those
then the
guys
tap
don't
room
have
goes
beer.
crazy. I'm sure during the winter time you don't push as much product out through the tap room because people
we'll probably
are busy
do
suffering winter.
We'll probably do like 1,500 barrels this year, and we're done growing until we can get a larger facility, which is kind of scary.
So on the other spectrum of things, then what would you say is like the most rewarding part of this?
Well, you can drink it.
I was going to say, I think I'm reaping rewards right now. So.
Yeah, it's such a cool vibe in the summer. It's so cool, and it's neat to be able to make a product that makes people happy. So we're the community center. So there's tons of kids running around. There's chickens running around, for better or worse. We got this cool stage.
I know, it's really
That is a cool stage.
A cool backdrop.
Look at the view.
Yeah.
Oh,
Look at the view.
Well, I'm looking right up now, and it's just...
Yeah. And it's such a cool vibe in the summer when people are cranking. And it's a cool vibe in the winter as well because it's a little haven for the locals. We have trivia nights and stuff, and it's something to do. And
you offer camping too.
Yeah,
That's
in the summer. Yeah. So we have a little shower facility, and it's pretty primitive camping, but we have water, we have showers, we have wireless.
Where else can you go? You're camping in a brewery.
But that's one of the great things about good beer too is we find that it just fosters community.
Yeah.
If you have the right people running the brewery, and you guys, you're local people, and you like having your friends come and hang out.
It's really cool seeing the trivia nights because you'll have half the house is like old school locals and ranchers and Dave and all these folks, and then the other half is travelers, and everybody's having a good time. Yeah. It's a cool vibe.
So travelers like us who come in and do really good for 2 rounds, and then you guys throw out the Wyoming trivia for round 3, and we get hammered. We're done.
Well, the guy who runs our trivia is the guy who walks around as the brewing assistant.
Okay.
He's a retired college professor, and he does really good job at the trivia.
Cool.
Yeah, that's
So
really cool.
And the brewer in there right now is his brother, who's had a whole career as a PhD electrical engineer at Boeing, and so we've got these funny connections. Yeah.
Then you got retired refrigeration guys.
Right?
Yeah.
Seems to be that common thread a lot in
Yeah.
breweries. Yeah. So there's a very, very beautiful bar top in there. Which maybe wants to tell me the story behind that.
Yeah.
Dad built that in 1970.
I was telling him last night that I sat at that same bar, 1970 and prior. That's when he finished the carving, I believe.
That's insane.
Because we used to go skiing and run together and stuff. After we got out of the military, we kind of hooked up again.
Was this in Washington?
Yeah,
Okay.
Monroe, Washington. But I can't believe it. First time I walked in there at the same bar I sat in the late 70s.
Did that
late
just like
60s,
bring a
in the
flood of
house up
memories
on,
back?
we called Smith Hill because that's
Okay.
where your grandparents,
Yeah.
there. And my parents were good friends with your
Yeah,
grandparents.
this goes way back.
Yeah,
That's
Since
funny.
5 years
tell.
old.
And that bar sat in that house
Yeah.
that Mom and Dad built, and for years after they sold it, and I think it was changing owners or something at one point. And
Really?
Buzz knew him, or one of my dad's
Wow.
brothers knew him and said, "Hey, that house is changing. Do you want that bar?" And so they went and snagged it, and that was
So
probably
the bar was out of the family for a while,
I didn't
even
even
too.
know
that was
And now
probably
it's
in the
here.
90s that they
Wow.
recovered it, early
That's
90s.
Oh,
that's
wow.
an incredible cycle for that. You know,
Yeah.
to think about it, that
Yeah.
that was in the just before there was even thoughts of a brewery or anything.
So that
you
was
know?
the
I mean,
party
it's just,
room for
Yeah.
my brother's generation sometime.
and now it's your party room
Yeah.
on a much bigger scale.
And what goes around comes around.
Yep.
So there it is.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
that's
It's
cool.
a beautiful bar, though.
It is.
Is that vine maple or
I think it's cherry maple.
cherry maple?
I
No.
don't know.
Did I hear right? Your dad cut the tree down. That
Boy, I think Tom might have. A family member anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was Tom.
And he built rifle stocks out of the rest of that thing.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
crazy
yeah.
stuff for years. Yeah.
Beautiful stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Pretty cool.
That is cool that it's all come back around.
Yeah.
So we also, I mean, Ten Sleep. We got to
Oh, yeah.
touch on that because people hear Ten Sleep. What the heck? What?
Yeah,
yeah.
It sounds like a little town in the
Yeah.
middle of nowhere, and it
So
kind
it was-
of is, but
You
it's
know
a
more about
beautiful
than I
middle of
do.
nowhere.
So I think the legend is that there are 2 big Indian camps, one down by Casper, Wyoming, and one up by Bridger, Montana, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And this was halfway, which was 10 sleeps. And,
Okay.
and I'm sure the internet
10
folks
That's
are
like
going to
10
like
nights.
collect
10
the
nights,
heck out
yeah.
of me on this.
Well, yeah,
But it's basically halfway between 2 big Indian camps. I don't know if it was winter camps or hunting grounds or what it was, but
Okay.
so that, yeah.
So this was just a popular stopover
Yep.
to get out of the elements or
Yep,
something,
yep.
maybe. And
And people are still turning up arrowheads out here. Lots of
Incredible.
Native American history and early white history out here with the the Bozeman trails right on the other side of the mountains. It got really gnarly because we were encroaching on their hunting lands.
oh no,
So they were shooting up the Bozeman Trail. So Jim Bridger made the Bridger Trail just over here by Warland to get up to the gold fields in Montana, and there's people crossing all over through here. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
You know,
you can see why the rock climbers.
just up
Yeah.
here on the hills up here, you can pick up. I've been told they're squid bodies.
Yeah, Belemnites.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and oysters. These the
4,200
Grey Hill
and
covered with
oysters.
them, Yeah.
From way back when this was all underwater somewhere.
Yeah.
huh?
Well,
That's
4,200
crazy to think.
4,200 feet.
Right.
And I was out last year, about 15 miles out past Castle Gardens, and I parked my rig and I walked up this hill, and there's just some big old rocks sticking up. And I started beating on those rocks and opened one up and found 4 little clam shells. And
Yeah.
I still
Wow.
have them.
Yeah. Ferns and clamshells.
Yeah.
And,
Over 4,000
crazy.
feet up, and there's fine clams. Well, come on. And a leaf.
Totally intriguing. That's science.
Yeah.
And,
that's
and
cool.
out a little
That is
bit
cool.
further, there's a place where you can climb up a little cliff with a hammer, and you can break the rocks. They break easy, and it's full of ferns and leaves.
Yep,
Have
yep.
you seen those?
Yep.
There's probably some laying around here.
Big
in the
Cedar
park.
Ridge out
Yeah.
south of.
It's really cool to go out
Castle
stomping
Gardens.
around and looking for stuff.
Cool, guys.
I think on that note,
Yeah.
there's one question we ask everybody at the
Oh.
end. But our logo and everything in our company is living a stout life. So
Wow.
what very kind of brief, or maybe in 1 or 2 words, how would each of you define your stout life?
Interesting. You got something
Mine's
quick,
easy.
Dave?
Yeah, I'm 77 years old and I'm still alive. But it's because of the dude. Stout.
The stout. So it literally is the stout.
Yeah, it's a stout. It helps a lot.
I agree.
Good for the joints.
I think so too.
I don't have any joint problems,
There you go.
except beer joints.
What's my stout life? I managed to live in Austin, Texas for 12 years. And since then, I've lived in like successively, massively smaller towns, and my quality of life has gone up. Like, here's the population, here's the quality of life. And so I'm living the stout life right now.
Yeah.
Got the family out here. We ride bikes. We ski. We chase an elk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Maybe
really
get-
good at
maybe
walking
get
around
chased
with my
back by an
rifle.
elk
I'm
once.
not really good at knocking them down, but I spend a lot of time walking around. Yeah, that stout life is quality of life.
I
like
think
that.
both of those deserve
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, good thing I still have.
Yeah, we
Still
say
a little
that
bit
enough.
there.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys. That was fun.
Thank you. Yeah, that was very interesting. I loved it.
That was great.
We have new conversations every week. Be sure to subscribe to Living a Stout Life so you don't miss out. 10 Sleep, Wyoming may be small, but has quite the history surrounding it. Dave and Justin were talking about finding arrowheads and clamshell fossils. What's the coolest thing you've ever found on your adventures? Let us know in the comments below or by clicking the link in the description.
Started out with probably that, that was in addition, and then we added 15s ever since. And so, in the summertime we do 5 brews a week, maybe a little bit more, 5.2 or something. It's about 14 or 1500 barrels a year. Which is a lot of work.
That's a lot of beer out of here.
A lot of work on this system. Yeah, and so 2 double brights, straight out of China. Never do it again. Both of those guys down there from the guy in Colorado, Ralph at Rocky Mountain Vessels. Ralph, super good dude. So it's a 7-barrel system, but it's giant. So I almost wonder if it was a 10, since the guy was going out of business. I almost wonder if he just took whatever he had and went for it. Because most 7 barrels are, it's 500 and something gallons. So. Hot liquor tank, mash on metal. We have no grain system, so we touch every piece of grain, lift the bag up, mill it, put it in a bucket, haul it up there, dump it in, stir it, old school. And I thought we were kind of badasses until I was down at CBC this year in Denver, talking to a guy on a 15-barrel system that did it all manual. Oh my God! What the heck?
Man, that's a lot of grain.
That is so much work. He's hauling it down the street in like a hand truck to a farmer. I was like, oh God.
Oh jeez.
We give all of our grain to a local farmer, but 7 barrels of grain is one thing, and I'm glad it's not 15.
Oh man. I can't imagine.
Yeah. We could probably do 15 barrels in here, but we don't have the hot water for it, and just all the logistics don't work. So eventually, a little 15-barrel system out in the field that we can start off at 3,000 barrels or so, with the room to go to 5 if we ever got there. And then this would all turn into retail space. Put windows in the wall and take down that little cold room, and you're sitting in here looking at the.
So you're gonna build a whole new brew house out there?
Out there, yeah. Yeah, because we just can't go anywhere here. The barn is just staggering under this load with the electrical and the water.